Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Decoding now, and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, one question that a lot of people have been asking: can made in China apps hack into e-rickshaws? Stop them? Well, you must have seen some of these viral videos which are now doing the round. A prankster taps onto a phone screen, then a moving e-rickshaw abruptly grinds to a halt. The drivers then look around, appear to be very confused, while the other people who are filming start laughing. Well, on the streets though, this social media trend has created real safety hazards. It's not just a prank, it's actually a crime. Let's explain. This endangers the safety of people on the road. This is a nightmare for e-rickshaw drivers as it stops their vehicle in the middle of the road. A viral video shows a driver crying, literally breaking down because his one source of income, which he had taken on rent, was hacked and disabled by a stranger he didn't know. He will lose his days earning trying to get this problem fixed. Which is why here, tonight on Decoding Now, we will answer these questions. First, can Chinese apps stop e-ricks? Can an app stop your EV car or your EV bike? What's a Bluetooth battery after all? How to keep yourself safe from hacks such as this? And is made in India the only solution? These are the questions that we are going to be decoding for you. But first, let's remind you of the viral videos. In fact, Times Now's reporters as well went and spoke to the e-rickshaw drivers with their consent, of course. We tried out the app. In some of the cases, we found that there were passwords which were protecting it. In some of the others, as the viral videos would show, unfortunately, they got hacked. Let's get you an idea of what's really happening on the streets of Delhi as people are trying out this new prank.
ठीक है, देखिए, कोई बात नहीं अंकल, कोई बात नहीं। क्या हुआ इसमें? हाँ, खराब हो गया। किसी ने मोबाइल से बंद तो नहीं करवा दिया ना इसको? बंद करवा दिया। रुक जाओ, साइड में रुको थोड़ा। कितना दूर से आ रहे चला के? चलो, कनेक्ट कर लिया और इनका टीवी चालू कर देते हैं। अब देखिए चाबी लगा के देखिए चाचा।
जो खुलते ही यहाँ पर ई रिक्शा की बैटरी के नंबर दिखने लगते हैं। इस बैटरी के नंबर के जरिए आप कंट्रोल में जाइए और किसी भी गाड़ी का जब आप बैटरी कंट्रोल करके उसमें पासवर्ड डालेंगे तो इस तरह का पासवर्ड मांगेगा। अगर आप पासवर्ड डाल देते हैं तो ई रिक्शा जहाँ पर चल रही है वहीं पर खड़ी हो जाएगी और उसमें प्रॉब्लम आनी शुरू हो जाएगी। तो इस तरह का ऐप इन ई रिक्शा वालों को लगातार परेशान कर रहा है।
But the problem is not just this Chinese apps itself per se, but the way that some of these battery systems are inherently built. Remember, many of the low-cost lithium-ion battery packs, which are used in most of these e-rickshaws, especially the new e-rickshaws, come with Bluetooth turned on. In most of these cases, there is no password protection either. This allows that anyone who's nearby, about 10 to 15 meters, anywhere close to these e-rickshaws, to easily tap onto this app to connect with the battery which is using this app, such as the BAT BMS or some of the other Chinese apps which are now coming to the light and have been banned as well. But once you connect, a user can then tap the switch which says discharge inside the app. Now, this immediately cuts off the power to the e-rickshaw and stops the e-rickshaw from moving forward. The driver cannot simply restart the vehicle with the ignition key anymore because the battery remains switched off. Ignition will not switch on the battery because it's been switched off from the app. So the battery must be turned back on again through the app for the e-rickshaw driver to start his e-rickshaw. But let's also explain what needs to be done for you to ensure that you can keep yourself safe. Let's say that you have an e-rickshaw. Anyone who wants to stop hackers, especially when it comes to cyber security, the first step is always to change the Bluetooth password. If there is no Bluetooth password, then you must change it. If it comes specifically to the e-rickshaw, in that case, you need to first go download the BAT BMS app, open the app, connect to the battery segment, then you go to settings or the parameter settings, whatever pops up. If the option is still available, then replace the default password with a new password. A password that only you have, no one else can possibly hack into. Second thing you can do is you must turn off the remote control features, because some battery systems, including options such as remote control lock or app control lock, can turn these on, which is why you must switch off the remote control feature in your app. Third, what you need to do is disconnect the Bluetooth. For this, the drivers who do not need Bluetooth to listen to music or anything else, then you can just simply go to a technician. Ask the technician, a mechanic, to disconnect the Bluetooth module from the battery management system. Just do away with it. The e-rickshaw will then continue to work normally. But other phones, however, will no longer be able to detect or to connect with the battery if the Bluetooth itself is switched off, or else it is password protected. Well, the viral videos that we were just showing for you right now have triggered off mass paranoia amongst EV users, and with good reason. But before you panic, it's important that you know the facts. Not every electric vehicle is going to be vulnerable to it, which is why let's explain to you what's safe and what is not, because those are the questions that people have been asking us repeatedly. Is my EV car safe? Is my EV bike safe? So this is what's safe and this is what is not. Let's tell you first what is safe. What is immune to hacking? Lead acid based battery packs which are there in e-rickshaws, which is usually the older e-rickshaws which have lead acid battery packs, well, they are not going to be hacked into. Any of the premier EV cars cannot be hacked into. Your EV cars, your electric cars cannot be hacked. Don't worry about it, at least not now. Electric bikes, even they cannot be hacked into. CNG vehicles, petrol, diesel cars, none of this can possibly be hacked in using any kind of technology. But now also let's explain how, after the videos that we were showing you of the pranksters going viral, the center has also cracked the whip. The apps that we were telling you about, both of these apps are Chinese apps, which are being used to hack e-rickshaws in Delhi. The government has ordered the ban of two mobile applications, the BAT BMS as well as the Epoch Li-ion, which is essentially lithium-ion battery packs making app. They are going to be removed from both Android Play Store as well as the Apple App Play Store, after there were several reports coming in of these two specific apps being misused by these pranksters to stop e-rickshaws on the roads. But remember, the government can only block the app under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act, which empowers it to restrict public access to online content under some of the specific circumstances. In fact, let's tell you what the Secretary of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had said. Well, this is the quote. In fact, S. Krishnan has said that both apps have been taken down, that app stores must exercise extreme caution, and that we will take it up with the app stores as well. Well, this is the government of India cracking the whip. But I must tell you, these apps were not always tools of mischief. Why were they built in the first place to control these battery packs? Let's explain. They were built for a very specific and a very legitimate purpose to begin with. Let's tell you why. The origins, of course, as I was telling you earlier, are made in China. The intended use for these apps was to monitor battering, and it could also monitor the charging of these EV battery packs. Monitoring, especially if anyone has bought an e-rickshaw and giving it on rent, it helps them actively and constantly monitor where your e-rickshaw is. It is also being used for remote shutdown, because many of these e-rickshaws were being bought on loan. In case the owner does not pay the EMI, then they can be shut down, which is the reason why they had installed these battery packs. Now, who all can control this? This is very important for you to understand who is controlling these apps. Any manufacturer can control the eSIM because there are eSIMs as well. Any manufacturer sitting anywhere in the world can control this eSIM. However, if the control is taken only via Bluetooth, if I am not the manufacturer, I can only via Bluetooth control it, and I need to be at least 10 to 15 meters near any e-rickshaw to actually control it. So Bluetooth, remember, needs to be only in proximity. It's not like someone in China is going to be sitting and hacking into your EV cars or your EV bikes or even your e-rickshaw. That will not happen. But the most important question, what's going to be the solution? We all understand the problem and the risks by now, but what about the solution? Well, the answer is simple as well as complicated. The process definitely isn't. I'll tell you why. Because as of today, 75% of the EV batteries in India are being imported from China. They are not made in India, they are made in China. India's own domestic manufacturing capacity of batteries stands at only 1 gigawatt hour. That is, as long as our batteries remain in Chinese hands, the vulnerability of Indian battery packs which can be hacked may just be hacked. The only real solution essentially is a made in India battery. Atmanirbharta in the truest sense, especially when it comes to tech which is hackable. The government is in fact acting. In India, there have been several steps which have been taken. Many have said it's not adequate, but at least these are green shoots. India has, remember, launched Advanced Chemistry Cell Production Linked Incentive Scheme, which is worth 18,100 crore rupees. It targets a domestic manufacturing capacity of 50 gigawatt hours. 14 states have already stepped up. They are providing incentives to localize EV and battery manufacturing. So made in India tech is likely to be the way forward. So let me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Pawan Duggal, cyber laws expert. We also have Ritesh Bhatia, cyber crime investigator. I'm going to come across to you, Pawan Duggal, because I read that you've said this, that it's not just a prank, it's not just a viral gig. This is crime. When you use your phone app to hack into an e-rickshaw and stop it, it endangers safety. Can you explain how is this a crime? Why people should stop doing it if they are?
First and foremost, people need to understand that e-rickshaw is not a traditional rickshaw. It's ultimately a computer in the eyes of law under Section 2 of the Information Technology Act 2000.
Okay.
That being so, when you use the app for the purposes of communicating with the said e-rickshaw and its lithium battery, and then you give instructions by means of which the lithium battery shuts off or the e-rickshaw comes to a grinding halt, you are effectively doing actions dishonestly as well as fraudulently without the permission of the owner or person in charge of the e-rickshaw, and that actions have diminished the value and utility of electronic information residing in the said e-rickshaw or affected the same injuriously by any means. Now, those are exact ingredients which get covered under Section 66, read with Section 43I of the Information Technology Act 2000, which is an offence punishable with 3 years imprisonment and 5 lakh rupees fine. So they say, no, ignorance of law is no excuse in the eyes of law. So just because you think it's a game, it's like to act funny or smart by getting the e-rickshaws to be stopping, you could potentially be prosecuted. And should a case be registered, you can even be potentially convicted. So people need to be more careful. Also, please understand, this entire app was never meant to be misused for the purposes of stopping the e-rickshaw. It was meant for the purposes of using Bluetooth for purposes of identifying whether the lithium battery is working fine or not. But then you are bypassing the original objective of the app and then misusing the app for the purposes of committing crime. You will definitely yourself be liable, and that's the new ground position as far as law is concerned.
And not just liable, you may just endanger lives itself. So anyone who's doing it, do not do it. It's not a prank. it's a crime. And as Pawan Duggal tells us, it is punishable by 3 years of jail term as well. But Ritesh Bhatia, here's this problem. As there is an improvement when it comes to tech is increasingly coming into the auto sector. EV cars, EV bikes, lithium batteries, all of this, you cannot stop it. It's a wave where we are headed towards technology. What do we need to do to keep ourselves safe is what people are asking. Because yes, we've explained to everyone that EV batteries only in the newer e-rickshaws can be hacked. People are still worried. What about our car? What about the EV car being next hackable thing?
Oh, well, Meghna, it has been hacked and a lot of demonstrations have been given even for, the EVs and the scooters that you spoke about, the delivery boys who are using. Just imagine somebody just stopping it and imagine there's a speeding vehicle behind, then how it will endanger the lives as such. Absolutely. But here comes the bigger thing that, we are always talking about awareness and, accountability, but nobody is talking about security by design, the accountability by the manufacturers, by the intermediaries. Like, okay, even so, what if it's a Chinese one? I mean, they have the best of the tech. Mm-hmm. Couldn't they even think about it that, okay, I need to give a password over here. This is something that can happen. It's like, you use the Bluetooth light technology, the BLE one. Anyone can just connect to any of these kind of things and, maybe misuse it also. So of course, if you see the failure first is at the manufacturer level, because he didn't consider security by design and security by default. Now, where everything is connected. See, earlier it was like we humans who were connected, but now it's like the internet of everything. There was an internet of things when you had Alexas and other kind of things. Mm-hmm. Now you have internet of everything. Almost everything is now wirelessly connected. And wherever there is a tech, there is going to be a hack. And if, people are thinking, okay, they are immune to it or they need not be worried. No, you need to be worried because again, it depends upon the particular company. Like, let's say today we have real good automobile giants over here. They are taking it very seriously because the apps that they are providing, with those apps, you can unlock the car, you can check the tire pressure, you can also locate where the car is, let's say you've given it to a friend for a drive. You can do all those kind of things. But, giving such amazing features, you also need to understand these tech companies or these automobile companies will have to understand that these can be hacked. And time and again, the best of the hackers have shown it, demonstrated it, that how even all these vehicles, whether EV or not, if it's connected, whether via Bluetooth, whether wirelessly or whatever, can be hacked. Meghna.
Absolutely. And that is the problem in that case, Pawan Duggal. What needs to be done in terms of steps that the states must take? As we were just explaining to our viewers, 75% of India's batteries are imported. They are imported from countries such as China, which may not be the friendliest possible countries to our states. And even if it is any other state, what needs to be done to fix accountability of manufacturers, especially if they are imported?
But clearly, you'll have to put in place a new legal regime. You'll have to make the exporter liable, and the exporter, when he's actually exporting or importer who's importing it from the other stakeholders, can then come up with contractual obligations. But there's a practical problem. Since you're effectively importing these entire machines or these batteries, the said exporters may say, well, take it or leave it. It's going to be very difficult to put in accountability to those entities, those vendors who are located outside your territorial boundaries. Yes, you can catch hold of the people who have imported it. You can straddle them with responsibilities, duties. But then to make sure that you're going to straddle the same responsibilities upon the foreign manufacturers is something that's good on paper, but may not actually fly on the ground. The reason for this is that there'll be no enforcement mechanism for the purposes of enforcing such kind of obligations, assuming you're able to put it. A better way is to start inculcating cybersecurity by design as a mindset, start encouraging people to adopt cyber resilience as a way of life, and adopting cybersecurity as a way of life. That's the way going forward. No amount of law can actually enforce these kinds of obligations outside their territorial boundaries. And India is not alone. Almost every country is facing the same challenge as we go forward.
Cyber resilience, that's a very good point that you've made. At times, laws are not enough. Mindsets need to change. Ritesh Bhatia, how do we do that? What is cyber resilience? What can we do to keep our cars, our vehicles powered by tech, especially imported tech, safe?
Meghna, let me tell you again, I will come to the same thing. Every time something happens, we put the onus on the users. You know, I'm buying a product. Now, okay, I have the basic knowledge about how to operate it, how to keep it secure. But if you're going to tell me every time that I need to be like resilient, I need to be aware, then I don't think so. It's like fair, you know?
Okay, it could be double pronged though. Let's say it's a double pronged thing. It's not just either or, it's both of them. In that case, what do I do? That's what all the users, all the viewers are sitting and saying, okay, I don't have an e-rickshaw, but I have an EV car. What do I do?
No. So in that case, talk to your manufacturer, ask them, call them up. They don't have to call up Meghna Deka and say, okay, what do I do? I think the first thing is put pressure on them. Ask them, are you secured? It is time, because for them, it will be just a matter of like few days to, send an update or do certain, kind of vulnerability assessment on their apps and see, okay, this cannot happen. So, ask the manufacturers, talk to them and avoid all these low cost kind of things. So like even if you see today, like, you were talking about that BAT BMS app. Now they immediately actually, sent across an update and then they have tightened the kind of thing. But that is applicable only for that, those kind of batteries which have been made by the Shenzhen company.
Only
but
that
for those
company,
other low cost ones, nothing can be done, so they will get they will continue to be hacked as such. And now we can't go and train these e-rickshaw drivers who don't even know how to operate a mobile phone as to how to set the password or what do you do. As a matter of fact, probably they would be thinking, oh, we didn't even know that there is something like, what is this Bluetooth? There is something like Bluetooth. You can't even disable that kind of a thing. So, they are like, literally a very, very big problem as such at this point of time, Meghna.
Then Pawan Dugal, what's the way forward? We are running out of time. So what's the way forward do you suggest to ensure that we're not caught in this tech trap?
First and foremost, try adopting cyber hygiene at a local personal level. Try doing backups so that at least you are in a relative safe zone. Try adopting cyber security by design. Try adopting good tools, a good antivirus, a good firewall, but ultimately be alive to the consequences that can arise you should things go wrong. So it's just a constant awareness, and your compliance with law, that alone will suffice you. Because the law says, I don't want you to do everything. I just want you to do bare minimum stuff. And once you do that, I'm going to give you protection. So please ensure compliance with applicable laws, whether it's the IT Act, whether it's the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, and try to get the benefit and protection of the law. That's the best way going forward. Learn from your experiences, your past mistakes, and make sure you don't repeat the same.
I think I absolutely agree with you. The biggest tool that we have, the biggest weapon that we have is knowledge, which is why we are having these conversations here on Times Now as well. Arm yourself with knowledge, ask the right question. Ask your politicians, ask your MLAs, ask your manufacturers, ask those who you are importing tech from. How can you keep me safe? Those are the simple questions. Let's just start with that. Thank you so much, Pawan Dugal as well as Ritesh Bhatia. I appreciate you both joining us here on the show. With that, we wrap up Decoding Now. I'll see you again on Monday, 6:30 p.m. right here on Times Now.